The lighting might not be the greatest, but I believe you should be able to at least see me and hear me. Have a little bit of noise in the background for you tonight. All is well, though. We'll go ahead and get started. May the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in Yahweh's sight. He is our strength and our Redeemer, and it is in His name, which is His authority, that we pray, praise, proclaim, project, and protect tonight's lesson. Aman. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Hello, everybody. I am Pastor Kofi, Pastor Servant to Christ, where we are always changing lives one mind at a time, but being the voice of the voiceless and speaking the unspoken. As a reminder, on Fridays, at least for a little while, I'll be coming on 8:30 p.m. New York time. So we are actually on time this evening. Praise Yahweh. And we've been doing that for a little bit now. I think this is like the third Friday in a row we've made it official, where we're going to be on closer to 8:30 p.m. New York time, and we'll see how stuff goes in the future. How's everybody doing, though? Welcome, welcome, welcome. Come on in. We give our honor and praise to the Most High. We give our praise and honor to Him for my wife, the Honorable Amma, who lives a life that is able to be honored. As always, you can check her out on TikTok, YouTube, her website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish, not A-N-D, the letter N. Bloom and Flourish. She is a healer, herbalist, chemist, and biologist by degree. Thank you all for being on one more again. So won't be before you too long. Just because we're starting at 8:30 p.m. New York time doesn't mean that I'm going to drag things out. But we'll go ahead and get started. Let's see. Tomorrow, 8 a.m. New York time, live session, right? Or if we're going by, Gregorian calendar, tomorrow, 8 a.m. New York time, live session, 10 a.m. New York time, Shabbat service on the podcast with Elder Select Anais. 11 a.m. New York time, Shabbat school for the babies. 7 p.m. London time. Everybody over in England will be meeting up, coming out of Meet Your Strawman. And 7 p.m. New York time, I believe we're having our marital meeting. I got to double check the time on that. We'll double check for that. And also tomorrow evening, we'll have somebody giving a quick message about 8 p.m. New York time or so on the original Kofi _ 40 channel on TikTok and on YouTube, more than likely, for our Removing the Leaven series that we're doing during this time frame. So prayerfully you can join us during those times. Hopefully you can. Thank you for being on. Shabbat Shalom to everybody once again. We'll say Shalom to everybody, say our Bible pledge, and jump right in. How you doing, Sister Beck? How you doing, Sister Mavis? How you doing, Double OG, Triple OG, Akia? Thanks for being on. Thank you for the love. How you doing? Shabbat Shalom to everybody. How you doing, Sister Sherry? Como esta? How you doing, Darius? Lottie Di, everybody, thank you all so much for being on. We are grateful for you being on today. So, and how you doing, Michael? How you doing, Dior? How you doing, House of Shalom? So, tonight, briefly, we're just going to concentrate and speak specifically on focus on who, with a question mark. Not focus on you, which you should, right? But focus on who. How you doing, Sister Shirley? So when we say focus on who, I mean as far as a community, as far as the diaspora. Thank you, Sister Beck. I see you. How you doing, Sister Deborah? Focus on who? The focus has been off of us for so long, right, that it's actually become very easy to allow others to make you feel guilty about focusing on your community. And I'm sorry, excuse me, Bible pledge. May the words of my mouth and the meditation of, the Bible pledge. This is my Bible. This is my sword, and this will I trust. For Yahshua is Lord. No sword of God shall ever be heard. For this is my Bible, and this is Yah's word. Hashem Yahweh, Amen. Which is in His name, His Shem, His authority. Amen. Excuse me. All right. So focus on who, and it's very tough because persons don't want us to focus on our community, focus on structure, becoming the masters of our own. They would call it the masters of our own destiny. Master being an okay term because of being a teacher. Destiny, we know we're not really into the destiny, predestined stuff, but being a master of what Yahweh has given us, being a master over our community, teaching the next generation, making sure that what Abba, Yahweh, our Abbas in general, Abba, Amma, our mother and fathers in general have done for us, shown to us, taught to us, etc. Um, we're made to feel guilty about that. And we're made to feel some kind of way about honoring cultural things and setting cultural precedents for ourselves and making it to where if somebody becomes involved in what we're doing, I'm not just talking about white or black, right? Our culture is deeper than that, right? You can be African and not be Negro, right? You can be African American and not be Negro. It's not as often as you might think, but you can still be those things, right? Those are things that can happen. That being said, and can you guys hear me and see me okay? Can you guys see me and hear me all right? Hopefully you can. Seems like we're having a little bit of issue with signal. Not sure. But yes, okay, cool. So and all these different things. YouTube, can you guys hear and see me? Oh yeah, okay, thank you, Sister Beck. So we're taught so much to be worried about what everybody else perceives that we actually kind of stop moving and we don't focus on ourselves. This is something that I've learned in life and even in general, and even in general recently in many different facets of life and on my journey, paths that I've been trying to make sure Yahweh's acknowledged in. And not only acknowledging him in all my ways, I acknowledge him, but he directs my path. So paths he has me going down. How you doing, Rodney? I have learned very quickly that it is all right for me to be a leader concerning my family and my community, and literally to be the leader, right? To not have to bow down or cowtail or worry about what everybody else has to say. Yah has given complete instructions. We have a very strong cultural connection to it, and it is all right to connect to it and make that a standard. So what am I saying? What am I saying overall, right? So we should not be moved from our position, right? And if I can be honest, in a lot of my life, in a lot of ways, I used to really allow things to push me from what Yah has shown me or told me or asked of me or demanded even of me, if I be honest. A lot of things in my life, what Yahweh has said, what Ravak HaKodash has led in, excuse me, a lot of things that have basically, I would put it like this, I was easily moved because I was always worried about what would somebody want me to do, right? Somebody says you're supposed to do this for your family, for example. So since somebody says you have to do this for your family, I end up being moved because somebody else says, right? I know that's not what's correct for my family, what's correct for me and mine, but hey, everybody says it's what you're supposed to do. So you move, right? I know I probably shouldn't work in this field. It's not really going to lead to anything. It's something that's a bunch of promises that really will end up being empty promises. But hey, being a man in this society, they say that men are supposed to do yada, yada, yada. You begin to do what men are supposed to do and find out that what men might do in the world is not what men do in the kingdom and how they move in the kingdom, right? I learned very easily that I need to focus on things from the perspective of kingdom and from the perspective of community. And when I learned these things and began to operate in them correctly, a lot of stuff. How you doing, Brother Aaron? How you doing, Scorpion? A lot of things began to become easier for me. Because persons will say focus on you, but who is that? How you doing, Tanisha? Right? Persons will say focus on you, but who is that? Like who is Kofi? What does that mean? What does it mean as far as Ashanti? What does it mean as far as Shwe? What does it mean as far as Yehasharal? Right? What does that mean when somebody says focus on you? I don't even know who that is. And I realized that as I did research, it was who I was actually further disconnected from the world, further disconnected, if we want to be specific, further disconnected from, at the time, the DMV, further disconnected from the military, further disconnected from Christianity, further disconnected. And I realized that the further I was, the more connected I was to things like the United States, the more connected I was to colonial structures and things of that nature, the more disrespected I actually was, and the more disrespected my community. In other words, the more integrated into foolishness, the less connected to righteousness. How you doing, Sister Monica? Praise God for you. Right? The more disconnected, or the more connected to, disconnected to my culture, the more connected I was to the ones who would love my culture to cease to exist, or would love my culture to cease to exist, or at least to say that it belongs more to them than it does to me. How you doing, Sister Mignon? And so I had to begin to make certain decisions about focus on who. We say focus on you, but who is that? So I had to learn different things. I had to be more open. I knew a lot of stuff that had been said as far as, the Jamaican side, or even if I'm not Rasta, there is a lot of stuff that Rastafari does mention that makes, sense and things. Not all, but many things, right? I had to be honest about, hey, instead of thinking it's bad, to mention to persons that I could be Cherokee, not only am I Cherokee, but what does it mean to be Anakitwa, which is the original name of Cherokee, right? And Shabbat Shalom to everybody coming in. How you doing, Brother TJ? You see, so how you doing, Sister Snett? I had to really start coming from a different perspective concerning who I was. So when somebody says focus on you, it's very difficult. It's very motivational to say. It makes a lot of sense to say. How you doing, Sister Nadine? It's very comforting even to say, to a certain degree, focus on you, but who is that, right? Who were you before first of all, who were you before the foundation of the world, right? That's salvation, that's salvaging, that's getting back to my original intent, right? Who was I before somebody said I wasn't Israel? Who was I before Gentile was changed to be about a particular group and family, to now being everybody who's a non-believer is a Gentile, which makes no sense, right? Who was I before they told me that Greek in the Bible meant anybody who's a non-believer, right? Wow, right? Because if you don't focus on who, right? Once again, focus on you is kind of overrated when you or who you are is underrated. How you doing, Shabbos? Right? Does that make sense? Right? Does that make sense? Like, focusing on you is going to be difficult when you don't even know who you are. Like, where do you come from? What language did your people speak? What were you cut off from? Because persons will say, hey man, DNA memories real, this and that, but like, what's in your DNA? Yeah. Why is it that when certain music comes on, it hits different than others, even before you know what 1-1 co is, even before you know the clave, even before you know salsa, merengue, right? Even before you talk about Afro-Cubano, right? Even before you talk about Puerto Ricano, even before you start going into the Clifford Browns, and I'm mentioning names you may or may not know, whatever, but talking about the Clifford Brown and talking about Arturo Sandoval, right? And Arturo Sandoval representing Afro-Cubano, which also means he has to represent the African side, while at the same time realizing that so-called African-American in jazz, Clifford Brown, and having to be able to say we're the same people. Like, who am I talking about? Right? Like, it's easy for somebody to say, focus on you, but how do you focus on you when you don't know who you are? Right? This is why you have these really weird conversations when persons try to act like they're focusing in on racism, right? You have a lot of really weird conversations. How you doing, Sister Taylor? Because if we have a conversation about who we are, about racism rather. Everybody says, focus on you, focus on the now, this and that, but how did you get here? Nobody wants to talk about who. Like, who you are is the result of a lot of different things that took place. Racism doesn't just exist because we talk about it, right? I think if somebody, I know those are talking points the person is giving us, but racism doesn't exist. Racism is a system. ISM on any word means that it's a system, right? So a system of competition that benefits one group more than anybody else, constantly and consistently, and it definitely, even within that group, it benefits a certain group of families more than anybody else. That is racism, right? It doesn't exist because we talked it into existence. You think that the person who was taken from their homeland, or the person who is in their homeland and doesn't even know they're from that homeland, right? You think that their ancestors were like, hey, you know, it'd be really great. Let's start speaking about things that cause us to have stuff taken away from us, and for us to be treated in such a poor manner that our children would not even want to be who they are. Our children don't even want to be themselves, right? And you don't have to worry about anybody else, right, saying these things. I'll tell you my personal experience. I've talked about this before. I was a token, and part of it was because I wanted to be a token, and that was because before I was a token, before I even understood what that was, I really didn't like being called black, right? Not because, oh, I'm African American, or oh, I'm this nation, or I'm what nation is black, or Moore's teachings, etc., etc. No. How you doing, Auntie Mary? I didn't want to be black because the schools I went to made you feel uncomfortable to be black. I didn't want to be black because I would hear from family members terrible things about black stuff. You know, we would joke around about nappy hair in your kitchen and stuff like that. And if you go have a fro, you better make sure that your fro has no naps. But my fro gonna have naps almost naturally. Like, there's no way, even if I get rid of the naps for a hot second, they're gonna sit still, because that's what the nature of my hair is, right? The nature of my hair is to nap up. The nature of my hair is to be in these things, right? So I learned to hate myself. When I learned to hate myself, then it got to a place of like, yeah, why would I want to be who I was created to be? Okay, thank you. Yeah. So why, that's the nature of what I was taught. I was taught to be against my nature. How you doing, Cultural Prospect? I was taught to be against my nature, right? And so to hate myself. And so nobody wants to deal with that. So how do you, right, once again, focus on you, somebody says, but my retort to that is focus on who? Why is it that nobody has ever said, it's important for me to learn about the person who pulled the teeth, right? George Washington. It's important for me to lift him up so much and to learn so much about him, even though he was pulling the teeth out of my ancestors' mouths. But it's more important to know about him and look up to him and say, that's what I want to become. I want to be a gentleman, when those Gentile men were busy pulling the teeth out of my people's mouths, right? But focus on who? Because I can never be that. Not just only I can never be the person pulling teeth out of person's mouths, I can never become him because I'm not even him. He's not me. How you doing, Mama T? That's right, self-indoctrinated hate. And Shabbat Shalom to everybody coming in, right? Like, these are things that we just be honest about it. If we be honest about it, how am I supposed to be a better me? How are we supposed to be a better we? And we don't even know where we come from. How does one love what they have no relationship with? How you doing, Elder Selector Nice? Right? How does one love what they're not connected to? See, that's a deep question, because many of us are still not really connected to ourselves, let alone our families, right? Look, watch this. How many persons know what the difference between first cousins, second cousins, third cousins, etc.? You probably have been told somebody's your second cousin, this and that, but you know, in order for you to be a first cousin, what does that mean? If you're first cousins, that means that you guys share what? Right? I promise I'm going somewhere. It might seem like this is out in left field somewhere, but I promise I'm going somewhere. If you are first cousins with somebody, what does that mean? That means that you shared not the same parents, because that would mean your brother or sister, right? If you're first cousins, you share the same grandparents, right? You have, right? So you share the same grandparents, right? So that makes us first cousins because we all have the same grandparents, right? Now watch this. To become second cousins, we have to share the same great grandparents. That means you got to know your great grandparents and then know their children and then know their children's children. And then we can start having a conversation about who's our second cousin. See how family works? Now, in order to be third cousins, that means one must share their great grandparents. How many persons know who their great grandparents are, let alone who their great grandparents' children are, let alone who their great grandparents' children are, let alone who their great grandparents' children's children are? So you'll be walking around your own people. And this has happened, obviously, for those of us who are realizing who we are as Yichadashal, right? Or Yichadashal, excuse me. This is something we do all the time. We walk past our third cousins, second cousins, first cousins with no clue. Because we were taught not to worry about our people, but to learn through somebody else. So how do you focus on you when you don't know who you are? That's why we say tonight, focus on who. Focus on who. Right? When I tell somebody that they're my brother, my sister, and we're talking about Israel, now those graft in, you over time, you become the same thing, right? You become the same tree, right? Your branch is grafted at a different point in the tree, but you still become part of the same tree, right? For those who are Israel, though, why you got 52 first cousins? Praise Yah. That's a lot more than that. Well, there's a lot more than that, but I got more than I was thinking. But that being said, right, we have to focus on who. See, because we don't even know who we come from. We don't know who we walk down the street with. We don't know. We're that tied to each other, yet we don't know. How you doing, MIT, Raj? See, this is why we got to get back into the familial nature or the family nature, right? Tu familia es importante, muy importante. It's important that you know your family. That we strive together to be a family in the word, to be one, to be a community. This is why our communication and everything, that's why I'm being more disciplined and stuff. That's why I'm going back over certain things with a fine-tooth comb. This is where we're developing membership teachings and things like that better, and we're going to have more communication. This is why we got to make sure that it can't just be virtual, it's got to be reality, because the family's got to be intact. You know, it used to be that we didn't even have last names. It was just some so-and-so born of so-and-so. And because the community was so straight, we knew who you were. There was no way we couldn't. Right? Like that was how powerful. And so when it says even marry into your own, I'm not doing a whole, you can't do so-called interracial marriage or whatever. That's not what I'm talking about, right? But I'm just trying to give you context. When the Bible talks about Israel marrying into your own, I don't even think persons recognize this. Like basically, when you start talking about persons who are marrying, persons might know their fifth or sixth cousins, right? That means you got to know your great grandparents in order for us to know how that works. That's how communal we were. Spent so much time. Like, and persons will say stuff like, this is impossible. How could one do this? Shalom, Sister Stella. Shabbat Shalom to you. How you doing? Praise Yah. Right? How you doing, son of man? Right? Persons will say to you, that's impossible. That's impossible. How could one know their sixth cousin, if we're going by that, right? How can one know their sixth cousin? Well, think about it like this. If you were all around each other as children growing up, being trained together, going through things, you would know. You know how I know? Because you go to school, and some of y'all, even if you don't know everybody by name, when you were in school, you knew about 100 persons. Easily. I'm not saying you were friends with them, best friends with them, but let's be honest, 100 persons at least, you knew. You had regular relationship with. When you were in high school, you had what? Well, depending if you had 4 blocks or 7 periods, did extracurricular activities, right? Traveled some. Maybe you did summer school. This is just school related only. Maybe you did sports. You played against different persons. Thank you, right? In the same neighborhood, on the same bus. Maybe you took public transportation, right? And then you knew faces. You knew what this person was. So even if you didn't know this person at the bus stop, you would say what's up to them, or you'd give a greeting to them because you knew of them. Maybe you didn't know the big mama of the neighborhood, but big mama was recognized because she was the one, and everybody in the neighborhood were like her baby. So even though you never knew her at the same time, you see what I'm saying? This is communal. This is community. This is family, familia, which, by the way, is not just a word in Espanol, right? This is actually, familia is originally a Kiswahili word. And it was important in your culture that you would know each other. Right? There were houses, you even knew which houses not to go to. Everybody in the neighborhood, you didn't even have to know each other. But if you saw somebody in the neighborhood going towards a place, somebody in the neighborhood would be like, yo, don't go to that house. You didn't even have to know them like that, but you knew because it was important. We took care of each other. Right? But they keep saying, focus on you. But focus on who? See, we have not even thought about that. That's the mindset we should have for ourselves. That's the goal. You said, I hated going to Portland. Right? But that's the goal. The goal is for us is to become so intertwined with each other that we know each other. See, this is why even when the stuff comes up about dating, no need to date when you know each other like that. None whatsoever. What I say, I'll say it again. No need to date when you know each other like that. Like what, Pastor Kofi? Where persons know each other's 6 cousins. When you know your 6 cousins, right? You get to 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Persons say this stuff doesn't matter, but check out all the presidents and how they're all related. They're like 10th cousins. That's how powerful it is, that you can be over an entire country and nobody even knows it's because of the family. And all of them are the same family. Barack, like when persons go, oh, Michelle is kissing up on George Bush, and y'all thinking that's some kind of thing where she got to go ahead and denigrate a black man in front. No, that's not even that deep. That's her cousin by marriage. They're family. When she sees him, you see him family. Barack has no problem with it because his cousin is George Bush. You're right. You don't know this. You don't grow up with this. You don't know these lies. But there's other persons that already have this stuff together and live by it. Same thing we should be living by. How you doing, Britta Rich? You said, was a dead end in your street, a hometown, anybody, or anyone you're sure you couldn't go down? Hey, yeah. And persons will let you know too if they had love for you, even if they weren't your shade. Hopefully. Right? I can't speak to your experience. Right? You said MAGA would have a fit. Right. But I'm just saying, persons don't know this. You don't think that it's interesting that Donald Trump's children and Trump's children and the Clintons' children, they grew up together? You don't find that, right? You see what I'm saying? Like nobody, or maybe they didn't grow up all the way together, but they grew up around each other. How about that? Right? But nobody wants to talk about these things. All the presidents are related. Every single one of them. And the one that's not, basically, over time, his families are married in anyways. And he was basically somebody who was trusted enough to where the family said it's okay. Everybody is related, right? Well, we don't even look to see our relation. So when you hear us talk about our brethren, when the Bible says brethren, we're not just talking random stuff. It's because this is who we are. This is why when we've been studying by the shots, we've been very truly, sincerely, consistently picking this word apart, line upon line, precept upon precept. Right, they're also related to royal families of other countries too. Matter of fact, all of them are related to not King George. Is it a King George or King something? I don't think it's a King George. But if you go back, every single one of them, all of the presidents were, not only are they related, but they actually go back into royalty, which means that you have the same thing coming over, right? A lot of persons forget, like George Washington who you think that like England and America were so against each other, George Washington and King George, right? Before the Revolutionary War and then after the Revolutionary War would celebrate each other's birthdays. Wrote letters to each other, spoke well of each other, talked about respect they had for each other. These fights that happen, these are family fights. When you look at the lineage, go when you get a chance. This is why a lot of these European nations have crazy kings. And by the way, it's not just European ones. This is why Hawaii had a downfall too and stuff like that. But persons be inbreeding, but they inbreed first cousins. They do like first cousin, second cousin, stuff like that. Right? That's an abomination. Right? You can't be doing, great grandparents and then over and over again, or grandparents and then doing stuff like that, or you got the same parents sometimes even. Like that's crazy work. Right? That's crazy work, right? That being said, when you're going through this stuff, these are the same family members. Right? They're married into each other. So, but if you look at the European nations and you go like, oh, these persons were crazy, or they were doing this or doing that. They were marrying each other. They were all family. Some of them brothers and sisters, some of them first cousins, second cousins at the most. They were trying to keep stuff in-house, so to speak. So, if you look at Queen Catherine is related. Her children are related by blood to King George, right? If you look at King George, his children are related to King Felipe, right? In King Felipe de España, right? If you look at King Felipe's people are related to those who are in Norway. They're the same, right? And you learned about all of them in school, right? Even if they didn't want to tell you that they were all related, right? I'm not saying we need to be doing the first cousin stuff. Obviously, that's disgusting. That's abomination. What I'm trying to tell you, though, is that they know who they are, and you were taught about them. Once again, who is your fourth cousin walking around here? What is the DNA? Even this is why we even teach every once in a while. I'm not great with DNA. I'm not great with blood types and all that stuff, but I teach enough of it to make sure that hey, if this person has this, more than likely y'all related. Right? Might be related far from each other, but you need to know you're the same nation, or at least the goal is to become a nation again. Right? So focus on who, not focus on you. You won't be able to focus on you until you know who you are. I was speaking with somebody today. We were having a conversation about even the name. Right? How does their name translate into the Hebrew name, et cetera, et cetera. Want to make sure that they get more Hebrew language and stuff down like that. That's what we should be doing. Right? That's what we should be doing, is getting to a point to where like, who are we? Right? You are Israel. Who is that? What did Israel do? What did Israel speak? What were his mistakes? What were the curses that Israel was dealing with? What are the curses that Israel put upon us, unfortunately? How do we correct that? How do we protect our sisters so that we don't have a dining situation? That's right, establishing ourselves and in Yah is always important. And I promise you, right, I told you this year, be ready for more discipline, be ready for more stuff, be ready for more, if you want to call it militancy, whatever the case might be, pride, Negro pride, black pride, whatever you want to call it, right? But I told you this year is going to be more discipline. And certain things we're not rolling with it, right? Including me at the top. And you guys notice ever since I've been talking about that time stuff, besides we had that Saturday and Sunday thing, besides that, right, last Saturday, Sunday, where there was some real stuff that went down, regardless though, still, like I've been doing much better with time, and especially since we kind of come out and I've announced like, hey, like look to me, like time wise, we're going to be on point, we're going to do, because everything we do at this point, it sets precedent, right? Who we are is going to be important, because who you are sets precedence. You catch that? Right? Who we are is important, because who we are sets precedence. Don't focus on you until you can focus on who. Who we are sets precedence. So if Pastor Kofi is always late, then SOC can be late, right? If Pastor Kofi's not focused, then SOC can be unfocused. If Pastor Kofi isn't ironing his clothes, and somebody can make fun of the fact that the leader's not ironing their clothes, I don't know if that's apples to apples. I'm just saying, right? Right? If I don't call stuff out, then nobody should call anything out. If I'm not disciplined, nobody should get disciplined. All right, we got to renew the mind. If I don't renew my mind, why should anybody else? Right? Now, obviously, the word is bigger than me, but I'm just saying, that's the way it works. Right? So we're going to do what we're supposed to. I'm going to be better. We're going to be greater. We're not going to, and once again, I hope you get the play on words that Holy Spirit's given us in this theme, right? The motif. I'm not saying don't focus on you, beloved. I'm just saying make sure you know who you are. Focus on who you are. And let's make sure we start doing the best that we can to be who Yahweh created us to be. All right, I'm going to go ahead and I told y'all we got family stuff that we making sure we're taking care of. So, we got some family and everything. So I'm going to attend to those things. I shall see you guys tomorrow. There is a possibility that we might have to move the marital meeting around some. So we'll make sure that we're have everybody in touch with that and in tune, and are sending Google Calendar invites and stuff like that. But we will get our stuff together. We're doing a lot of traveling, even with being at least resting in the same place for a few days. We're still traveling quite a bit. So just keep us in prayer. Love y'all. I'm on Auntie Mary. Praise y'all. Y'all take care. Continue to do well. We'll see you tomorrow. Everything is on so far. I'll try to keep in touch with everybody. Make sure that we're keeping things together. Brothers, keep on being in your book, 5 Love Languages. Yeah. I think that's everything I got for now. So love y'all to life. Talk to you guys soon. If you have any questions about anything going on, feel free to reach out to Sister Renee. Also, too, for those that are meeting up, especially for the 3 main meetups, but meeting up for anything coming up, especially soon, especially for Passover, I think we got most of that stuff pretty much handled. But make sure that if you're coming, you got that stuff together. Sister Taylor, we're still going to try to reach out to you about stuff that you had offered up, just to let that be known. And definitely for the Memorial Day weekend. Make sure if you need to get a room, we have rooms set up for a price rate for Servants of Christ. It's lower, more than likely, than what you're going to find. You might find, stuff as it's for the spot that we have. You might not be able to get, it for lesser. But or if you need to meet up with somebody, figure out if you're doing a double bed situation, sharing a room, et cetera, et cetera. Once again, you can reach out to Sister Renee or reach out to myself, and we'll get you that info ASAP. And don't forget, by the end of this month, the last Saturday, which I think somebody told me was March 29th, right? I believe March 29th is the last Saturday we need to have your donations for the museum, for the Bible Museum, so that we can make sure that we put our order in for everybody. I'm gonna probably be reaching out and maybe ask Sister Renee on Monday, because it's Shabbat, so we're not gonna put anything extra on her. But maybe on Monday she'll send an email out to everybody who filled out that form, and I'll send a text out to everybody who I've been talking to who says they're coming, and we'll try to make sure that everybody, once again, double check with everybody, make sure, see if there's help that might be able to be done or not be able to be done, if we can. But and those who are coming as well, who we've had conversation with, we'll probably be, we have a little bit more in the budget to make sure that we can help with persons who are coming for Passover and stuff as well, who we've already previously talked to and discussed. So be ready for that to be coming as well. So love y'all to life. That's all I got for you. We give our honor and praise to the Most High. We give our praise and honor to Him for my wife, the Honorable Amma. Thank you, SOC family. We love you, family. And until next time, remember as always that you are loved, you're necessary, you're majestic, you're fearfully and wonderfully made, and you, which is all of us working together, will be the reason why people who are in this system no longer have to be of it. Shabbat Shalom. Peace. Take care.